Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Good Housekeeping Roxhill Webinar. Gabby, Hagar, we are so excited to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us on the screen. Gabby, you are Editor-in-Chief of Good Housekeeping, and I've got your title here because it's very long, and Group Editorial Director for Hearst Lifestyle and Homes. And this is my colleague, Olivia Bloom-Davis.
Hi.
For Roxhill Media, and my name is Emma Cripwell, and I consult for Roxhill Media, and I do the publicity for the Pig Hotels. So Olivia's going to tell us something to begin with.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Just before we start, all of the Good Housekeeping contact details have been updated and checked, so Roxhill is totally up to date. If you've got any questions for Gabby during the conversation this morning, please do use the chat function on the side of the webinar, and give us a follow at Roxhill Media to keep up to date with all of our latest news and webinars.
Gabby, tell us how has this year been for you and your team?
Well, I mean, obviously, like everybody on the webinar, it's the strangest of all years, and one that you wouldn't really like repeated. And working at home is, challenging, as we were saying just before we came on, although we have incredible systems and technology in place that allows us to do our jobs from home. We can work remotely, we can do it. But I suppose the other thing to say is that as a journalist, and I'm very old, I've been a journalist for a very long time, this is also the stuff that you train for, and that gives you a high in a way that you're connecting with your readers and your audience in a way that you're absolutely playing a role in their lives and helping them through this time. And probably more than any other time in my 30-year journalistic career, I've had more emails and messages from readers than I've ever had in the last few months to say that they are finding comfort, solace, joy, help, all sorts of basically sort of life lessons from what we do, and just being really thankful. And in the past, I've always heard, the Good Housekeeping audience are very vocal, but you tend to hear from people when they grumble. But honestly, it's been one of the upsides of this year that the gratitude that we're hearing from our audience is just incredible. I mean, literally, weekends are spent emailing readers back and thanking them for their notes. And actually,
Wow.
it's really incredible. And they love this title. There is a passion for good housekeeping, among the audience, but they really use it as well. So I think it's sort of, this year's been, awful on so many different levels for everybody, and lots of us have suffered losses and, had members of the team ill, and, hugely challenging. But at the same time, pivoting what you do and making yourself, and the title relevant and the articles relevant and helpful has been what we train for as journalists. I mean, and fantastically rewarding.
How fascinating, and actually by default, that's brilliant for the PR community here to hear, because you are really hitting the right note with your readers, and it means they're really absorbing everything in there. So whatever we've got as PRs, we know we're actually reaching the reader properly, and they'll probably respond.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, more than any other title I've ever worked on as well, Good Housekeeping, the fact that we're 98 years old this year, so preparing for our 100th birthday in 2022. And, it's an enormous privilege in journalism to edit this title. It also is quite a burden because it comes with so much respect from the audience, and the fact that we've got the Good Housekeeping Institute, as a research organisation, and the stamp of the tried, tested, trusted stamp from the GHI is a trademark. We actually have that tried and tested and tried, tested, trusted as a trademark. It means that if something is in our pages or on our website, the audience really do trust it. They really do think it's absolute, which it is, obviously factually accurate. But it's quite a big responsibility, and they absolutely do. But if something is in Good Housekeeping, it's absolutely believed by the audience, and they do kind of live their lives through it, and that goes across all platforms now. Obviously, not just the print title, but that's got a very, very loyal audience still in print.
Fascinating. I can't believe you're nearly 100. Oh, sorry, your magazine.
Yeah.
Gabby, give us some juicy stats. So what's your readership? Who are your readers? And
so we're one of the sort of a handful of titles in the UK in print where we are really, it's the 35 plus women's market. So it's really for 2 generations, if not 3 of women. So women come into our sort of fold once they've got a home, and it's really that sort of the uniting factors. Once you've got a home and you're sort of you're established, then you'll come into the audience. But it really is sort of 35 plus. So the majority of the audience in print would be women in their sort of 40s, 50s, 60s. But we will skew, occasionally I'll get an email from somebody who's late 20s and saying, oh my God, I've just found you and I absolutely love, I think this is probably too old for me, but I am absolutely loving it. I love everything about it. And then I'll occasionally get an email from somebody who's in their I got one yesterday from somebody who's in their 80s saying that she absolutely loves Good Housekeeping and keep up the good work and, all of this. So that is sort of the print, very traditional print audience. On the digital side, we've now got 6 million uniques on the website. So we're a sort of a force. And then that obviously skews younger, as you'd expect, the digital audience. So that is really from 20s upwards. And interestingly, on the website, about a quarter of the audience are men. So we're not just a female resource online. I think the men come to us either for recipes. Obviously, we have a huge bank of recipes. And then obviously our reviews, the reviews from the Good Housekeeping Institute, which are online for all sorts of products and services. So I think that's why we pull the men in. Obviously a huge audience online as well, but sort of broader. The print audience will tend to be quite affluent. So very heavily weighted ABC1, whereas obviously it's broader online. But I've got some other sort of stats and facts for you if you'd like them. So just to sort of demonstrate really the power of Good Housekeeping, we're still a print circulation title with well over 400,000 print circulation. So we're about 150,000 bigger than our nearest rival.
And then the readership's they usually do 3 times that, don't they? That's
our reach is 1.2 million. So and when it comes to the Christmas issue, that a lot of people will buy that as their absolute Bible for Christmas. So our Christmas figures are absolutely vast, really, and that's just the title. So just to sort of put it in perspective, Good Housekeeping generates more revenue at UK retail than any other monthly magazine.
Wow!
So it's sort of, it's still a very big brand in terms of print. Anybody who says that print is over is they haven't obviously come across Good Housekeeping, because we're still huge in print.
And is it Hearst's most successful magazine?
It's the biggest. It's the sort of, I think, commonly referred to as the mothership at Hearst. And actually we're growing in terms of our revenues. We've actually grown in the last few years. The newsstand title currently sells at £4.99, and our subscription volumes have actually grown by 80% this year. Another upside of this dreadful virus is that a lot of people are now choosing to have a subscription at home. So although we've got about 50% of our subscribers have received Good Housekeeping for 4 years, and a third have been with us for more than 9 years. But actually this year, obviously people not wanting to go out shopping as much, we've had an 80% increase in subscribers. So obviously, that's huge. And then we've produced lots of brand extensions in recent years. So I don't know whether you'll have seen, but we have a collection series. So we produce some sort of specialist food titles. So we've always done a sort of Christmas collection as a standalone. But this year we've done a gardening collection, and we've done vegetarian collection and various food titles. We've done a cleaning and decluttering one. And those have also proved very successful. They've generated more than £1 million in retail revenue on the newsstand this year. So we're still, although we're a very old lady as a title, we're still in growth, which is quite a good place to be at the moment.
Fantastic. And which
Oh, Emma, we've just got a time delay. Sorry.
Shall I put my headphones on?
No, it stopped. Sorry, it was a little bit echoey. There we go.
Which topics do your readers particularly love? You've got a very strong recipe section. You've got your very, very well respected travel section with David Wickers. Are there sort of 5 key topics that are always covered?
Well, I think, our strength as a lifestyle title is, or an audience comes to a lifestyle title because they want a bit of everything rather than getting a separate homes title and a fashion magazine. They come to us for that breadth. And, I've got an incredibly strong team. So we've got a brilliant fashion team. Fashion is really vital. Beauty is vital. I mean, just when we came on, I heard you guys talking about our beauty pages. Because, the fact that you've been reading them so closely was music to my ears. Cookery, very important. Homes, very important. Health this year, obviously, health is a significant pillar for us. And travel, but it goes right across the gamut of lifestyle. And I'd say they're all equally important, that there isn't sort of a poor relation when it comes to anything we do. And then, very much, I think, for our audience, for the print product, the features and reading about, storytelling is very much part of what we do, and telling readers about stories of inspirational, uplifting women like them, I think is really key to it as well. And then being very topical in our sort of spin on things that are going on in the wide world. And it's really across the whole, every strand is, I would say, equally important.
Sure. And PR's playing their role with you and your team. With luck, we always try and feed you good ideas that are relevant for your audience. Where do we get it wrong? Because it's always good to know what we shouldn't be doing going forward. And how do your team like to be contacted? Do they like email, over phone? And what's happened to face-to-face meetings?
Okay, so lots of questions in there. I think everybody now, we're all used to working on email, and although the email tsunami is such that it's quite obviously there's a lot of emails, so I'd say always having, it's a sort of basic rule of PR or journalism is get your message in that first few sentences at the top. If you're going to write an essay and bury the most juicy point right down at the bottom, is probably not going to get read. So I'd say, hit us with a really good angle right at the top. It is worth chasing, I have to say, bearing in mind that my invitation for this webinar went into my clutter folder. We have we seem to have a very overactive clutter filter at Hearst. So normally I would have said, oh, please don't keep chasing up, press releases. But actually, sometimes it is worth chasing up in case they've gone into clutter, unfortunately. But, I will read everything that comes to me. I won't always get back to people because the weight of emails, certainly I'll be receiving sort of 400 emails a day, probably.
And what proportion of those are relevant? How many of those are relevant?
Probably about quarter, 25%. But I will field things to my team. I mean, generally, what you want is a PR to have done a bit of the work. So, I mean, I'm telling you what you know here, but to have looked in the title and have worked out, or looked at the fact sheet that you're going to be distributing today and worked out who, if it's beauty, they're much better to go straight to Eve Cameron, who's our group beauty director, than to me. Or, I might be interested and I'll tend to ping things on to the right person, but obviously it's much better if they go to the right person. But I mean, in terms of your other question, which was about face-to-face meetings, we are all really used to now getting together with our contacts on Zoom calls or Microsoft Teams calls, or this is my first time today with this program, but it looks very efficient. But I think, and we all need it. We all absolutely crave face-to-face contact. And okay, it's not person to person at the moment, and press launches aren't quite possible, but we all absolutely want to keep up our relationships and contacts. And I know, Eve was telling me in the beauty industry, they've been very good, a lot of the clients and agencies, about holding little, webinars or meetings and getting together, PRs and journalists on calls, which is quite nice, you know, because we also miss seeing our competitors out at events. You know, when you go to press days, you see lots of other people from the industry, journalists and PRs, and we all miss that. You know, we're all social people, PRs, journalists. We all absolutely thrive on contact. So, and that hasn't gone away. So I think, you know, people will, if you want a meeting with someone, they'll probably bite your hand off.
Yeah, absolutely. You're quite right. We are, journalists and PRs in particular, we are very sociable beasts. And tell us how it works across the other titles within Hearst, because I know that some content is shared, or is it not across?
So how we work as a team, I'm my editor-in-chief of Good Housekeeping, so that's sort of my day-to-day role, but then I also am group editorial director over the lifestyle division. So that means we have, which is quite common in journalism now, hub teams. So there's a sort of, say, beauty, because we were talking about that, a big beauty team, and they will service all the titles. So Good Housekeeping, Prima and Red are the 3 lifestyle titles. So they'll all be serviced by the team. And really what that is about is efficiencies. So rather in the past having 3 separate beauty teams who would all go to the same launches or all write up the same thing in a different way, it's about, you know, one person writing or going to one launch or finding out about one product and really driving efficiencies. I mean, what it's allowed us to do is to keep brands going longer, because, you know, it's quite, some of the titles are more challenged than others, and obviously there's huge efficiency in having a team that will find about everything going on in their area and then really be a filter for what's most relevant for each title. You know, they all have slightly different audiences. You know, Red is slightly younger, very urban. You know, Prima is more similar age profile to GH, but more, slightly less affluent, more mid-market, proudly mid-market, and more, you know, around the country and more sort of suburban, I suppose. So they're all slightly different, but there's no reason why the same person can't write a story and just skew it in a different way for the different audiences. So that's really how it works. And then our homes content sits very firmly with the homes team, which obviously they're servicing House Beautiful and Country Living magazines, but they're also servicing the lifestyle titles with our homes content as well.
So if I were a beauty PR, would I send in something to Eve Cameron saying, I think this is right for GH, or I think this is right for Prima, or does Eve make her mind up about that? And the same with
she will make her mind up. Quite a lot of PRs will do that, and that's fine. And quite often, you know, Eve will say, well, no, it's not quite right for Red, but actually I do think it's really good for GH. Or so, you know, but it's always worth sort of saying, you know, and sometimes it's not the PRs. PRs will tend to know what it's right for. It may be a client thinking, you know what, this is perfect for Red, or this is perfect for whatever GH, and actually it's not perfect. That's actually perfect for Prima. You know, it may. I'm just using that as an example, but it's always worth sending it in with an idea of where you think it might fit, but be prepared that Eve or whoever else on the team might think it would fit better somewhere else.
Absolutely. And how are you navigating the complexities of travel at the moment? Is David Wickers just focusing on UK, or does he have broader plans to try and venture to Europe?
We've been really supportive at Hearst on travel. We have a lot of commercial partners from the travel industry. We know from copious amount of reader research in recent years that our audience are passionate about travel, and we've done reader research groups around the country where it came out, I mean, this was pre-COVID, but the most important area for disposable income is travel. Readers just absolutely love traveling. And that hasn't really gone away. And okay, people aren't traveling as much this year, but there's the pent-up demand is very, very much there. So this year it's been a balance between doing some staycation editorial, feeding them with ideas for where they can go this year, but very much also we've kept supportive of the industry and written a lot of editorial and done a couple of specials for people to plan further ahead. And we're seeing quite a lot of bookings into next year. People need it. They need something to look forward to, I think, more than ever.
Yeah.
So we do. It's been a balance of the two, but we're absolutely carrying on with that, you know, we do a couple of travel specials a year. So we just gone to print on November, and that's got a big travel special in it, you know, very much with a view to, well, this can't go on forever. We know, you know, the fortunate thing for our audience is they are economically quite robust. A lot of them have paid off their mortgages. More than 50% of our audience have paid off their mortgages. So in what's likely to be quite a big economic downturn, they'll be quite protected from that in a way. They've still got disposable income, and they will continue to want to spend on travel. So it's our responsibility both for our audience to give them ideas, but then also I think very much we want to support the travel industry to come out of this as quickly as possible once we're out the other side.
Absolutely. As far as, you know, your affluent audience goes, I mean, that's kind of wonderful for us PRs, because, you know, we always want our product that we're pitching to actually be bought. Is there a consciousness of price cap? Do you make sure that things aren't too expensive?
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily the price, it's the value. So, I mean, if we're talking specifically about Good Housekeeping, the Good Housekeeping reader is very value conscious. They're affluent, they've got money to spend, but they will spend it quite wisely. So they will do quite a lot of research before they spend it. So it's that balance rather than anything else.
Yeah.
And you know, so they tend to, with fashion, they'll go top end high street rather than going designer, because they won't necessarily feel that that's the best value. Whereas a red reader would probably go more designer, so they will make those purchases. Somebody's doggies.
Sorry, it's my puppy.
Yeah, I can understand that. That is that sort of considered by rather than
exactly. And you know, they love our reviews, their GHI reviews, and they will sort of want to make an informed decision before they buy. So, but absolutely, we know when we feature products in Good Housekeeping, they will absolutely fly at retail. So.
And the sort of women that you feature in Good Housekeeping, you've got Sophie Wessex on your cover for the current issue, and then some interesting, really fantastic characters inside. What do these personalities need to have about them to adorn the pages of Good Housekeeping?
Well, for the covers, our sort of long-standing mantra has always been to be on a cover of Good Housekeeping is a national treasure. So I think with Sophie Wessex, you would definitely say that she's absolutely that. And I think people that are universally admired and who have done something, who've earned their place, I suppose. So our next cover star is Monica Galetti, and I'm rather excited about her because she's somebody I found fascinating for a really, really long time. And I love her on, Professional MasterChef and her hotel programs, and I think she's fascinating. But she's the real deal. You know, she has been working in a kitchen since she was 23 years old, and she came to this country from New Zealand, not knowing anyone really, and worked for Michel Roux, and absolutely has worked her way up. And TV sort of happened along the way. I think our audience is going to be really interested by her.
So do I.
So she sort of typifies that kind of person, somebody who's earned their place, but they're not necessarily British, but they're an adopted Brit, or they're absolutely head and shoulders somebody that all the audience would admire. You know, I'm very proud we got the exclusive with Michelle Obama when her book came out. And that was although she's American, I think all of us would look to her as being an absolute icon and somebody that has earned her place in this world and that we will all want to hear about. But I suppose we've got a very intelligent, educated audience. And so it's featuring women that will genuinely interest this intelligent audience. They've got something to say. They've earned their place. They've,
I can see that. The products that you feature in the magazine, do you tend to favour British products, or do you favour products that you know your audience is going to like, British or international products? So makeup or fashion.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, it will tend to be audience first. So we'll favour products that we think are right for the audience and the best products. I think, that's a very, very good question. There probably is a little bit of a skew to British, but it's not something we've genuinely really been aware of. I'd say the thing that we have become a lot more focused on over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, is sustainability has been a really key factor. And I'm very proud of the work some of the teams have done around really trying to support sustainable products and services. So the beauty team last year did a huge investigation into which products were sustainable. We did a really big piece on those kind of products. And so I think that's become something we like our audience. And a lot of it is driven by the audience. They are really focused on this, and they really increasingly concerned about the environment. And I think, a couple of years ago when David Attenborough had his program Blue Planet on, I think that changed the world, actually, that program, by making people really wake up to single-use plastics and the fact that we need to make a change now. So I think that's sort of fed in a lot more to the things that we feature. And Britishness, obviously, sustainability and Britishness will work together, but I think it all comes down to what's the best product or service for the audience, really.
Yeah. It's so wonderful, you know your audience so well. It's brilliant, and the only way a magazine should be run. With fitness, I know that fitness has been something we've all sort of tried to keep up in lockdown, and part of that is the Good Housekeeping woman very interested in fitness.
Very. I mean, I think, people used to say, what was it, 40 is the new 30. I mean, I genuinely think 60 is the new 40 now. Honestly, when we've been out to read, and this predates COVID, where we were going out to research, where the readers are all talking about their yoga class. Yoga, huge, absolutely huge. Yeah, and the other thing is, and dog walking. People are obsessed. Sorry, appropriate to have a puppy on the call, but obsessed with their dogs and dog walking. But all sorts of exercise. I mean, really important. And I think that's only grown this year.
Right.
We are running, obviously, one area of content which has completely changed this year is the number of articles we're running about COVID, about boosting immunity, about being in the best possible shape you can be in if you get this ghastly virus. And obviously all the research now that's coming out is about how important being fit is, how important it is to have a good BMI, not be overweight. And so we're running a lot of articles about both diet, not faddish diets, but eating healthily, and then exercise and different forms of exercise. And I think it's partly because people are stuck at home more, and forms of exercise at home that they can do. But also it's just about this really being in the best possible shape you can be. I mean, again, all our research has shown people for a long time, women for a long time, have been concerned about aging well. They perhaps, our audience will have seen their parents aging. Big fear of dementia, huge. That obviously is a epidemic really now in the aging population, and our audience don't really, they want to keep their minds as sharp as they possibly can do. So we've run quite a lot of features on that. And then it's about aging, bodies and mind, aging as well as they can, aging healthfully. So we run a lot of content on that, and increasingly really in the COVID era, that is very, very important pillar for GH health. And I think that's going to remain the case right through next year.
Yeah, good. We have got a million questions, Olivia. So I have to ignore them, because otherwise I get distracted. And Olivia's been
so many.
So we'll start to you, Gabby, which is everyone just them wanting to find out more about how they can pitch well to you and your team.
Yeah. So I think the question we should go to first is what is the Good Housekeeping lead times? Which also might tie in with the Christmas gift guide. Is that all signed off and done now?
Well, and I do apologise if you hear pinging in. I've tried to silence my emails, but they are pinging in. So we're actually, we start going to the printers on the Christmas issue on Friday. So so the gift guide is pretty much there now. Cool. I've got, we've planned January issue, which is out December. So in monthly land, obviously, when I talk about an issue, so December issue is out on the 28th of October, and January issue is out at the beginning of December. So that's sort of, it's always kind of at the beginning of the month before. Yeah. I'm going to planning meetings for February next week, February issue. Obviously, I need to give the team a good month to be working on the content, but they will be pre-planning February already across the board. So Elita, as early as possible, you know, a lot of the work into the December issues really taken place over the summer.
Right.
And say the food team, for example, will have been coming up with ideas for Christmas really since late spring, early summer. So,
Cool.
You know, you can't be too early, is pretty much
Brilliant.
what I say with that. But obviously, you know, I look after the website as well. Digital, you haven't missed the boat, because digital, we working far more in real time. So it's just where you want to feature your product. But I'd say, you know, for print, just earlier the better.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. So travel, Laura has asked, what are your thoughts on long and short haul at the moment? And then Lauren has asked, are you open to press trips currently?
At the moment, okay, so last first, at the moment at Hearst, we're not sending anyone on press trips, and
Brilliant.
that's a decision across the business. So until the, you know, the business takes a quite a conservative on health and safety, they really feel that they have a duty of care for employees. So we're all grounded in terms of press trips at the moment. But in terms of long haul, short haul, we're still featuring both. And funny enough, I was talking to David Wickers yesterday about his February copy and what we should do. And I just said, you know what, people really want to look forward to something. So we're going to do 21 brilliant ideas for 2021. That will be literally right across the board, places that we think people will really want to go next year.
Yes.
And places that they probably won't want to go. I should think, you know, that where we're hearing the US is going to be difficult. The sort of the level of the virus in the US, I think, would make people quite, our audience anyway. I think younger audience will go wherever there is a good deal, you know, and the Cosmo audience, I know, will jump on a plane anywhere and they're keen to hear about deals. Our audience quite want to feel safe and secure wherever they go. So I think the US is going to be challenged. I think India, which was a big destination for our audience, is probably going to be a little challenging to come back to. Equally, I think they'll all be very keen to go to New Zealand, which probably don't want Brits for a bit. So it's about a balance of featuring places that we think people want to go, but also that they will be actually allowed to go. So we're just beginning to investigate that, but that's sort of where we're approaching. I think just feeding people's imagination and inspiring them that you know, that as soon as they can book, then they can have everything at their fingertips to choose the place that's right for them.
Yeah,
brilliant. In terms of the tried and tested trademark, Sienna's asked, how easy is it to feature products without that stamp? And how do you get that stamp? Is it just people sending things in with a pitch? I mean, then you review them, or?
So, I mean, the Institute we have a massive institute which is constantly testing products and services. I mean, it's the most extraordinary place. We've just opened a new premises in Feltham, actually. It's absolutely vast, and it's sort of almost a bit like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You go in there and you kind of, there's, you know, the facilities in there are extraordinary. They're sort of all different floors, and they'll get pet's hair, dog's hair from Battersea Dogs Home and shred it all into these different floors, and then test the vacuum cleaners on the different surfaces to see which vacuum cleaner works best. So
that's amazing.
And there's a staircase, and they'll throw luggage down this staircase sort of 50 times to see which is the most robust luggage. So it's a very, very extraordinary facility, really, to have. But not everything in print will have that stamp. We do things. So, you know, if you've got whatever your product or services, if you send it to the category lead, which is on your document, I know, if you send in details of that or products, we can feature them. It's really, you know, I've got such an experienced team of journalists. They will know what's right for the audience. So I'd absolutely trust Eve to know what the right beauty products are. And I know you've been reading the pages very closely, Emma. So, you know, and you can trust them because Eve really knows her stuff. Caroline Bloor, our Consumer Affairs Director, I wouldn't, you know, I'd absolutely trust her. We all on the team go to her for financial advice because she came up with a Financially Fabulous franchise, and she really knows the best ways to invest and save your money. So, you know, we've got a team who really do know their stuff. So I would definitely pitch to them. In terms of wanting the tried, tested, trusted stamp, that's really a separate pitch through the Good Housekeeping Institute. And I think you also have the details on your sheet of how to do that. So it depends what you're after. And we do some commercial testing, so at the Institute as well. So for products, I mean, you'll have seen it on the TV where certain products are advertised and they use the stamp in the advertising. All sorts of research conducted around that, which show that 87% of consumers are more likely to buy a product or service with a Good Housekeeping tried, tested, trusted stamp. So it's immensely powerful. That really is a commercial to get a product specifically tested and through our panel. Would be a sort of a separate conversation really through the Institute.
Brilliant, thank you so much. That's so interesting. And next time you want some dog hair, please feel free to come here. Have you seen an uptake in demand for personal finance advice during the pandemic? Is our personal finance stories of interest?
Absolutely. Caroline Law, who I mentioned, heads the Financially Fabulous pillar. We also have a finance editor at Hearst who's actually embedded in my team. So really important. I mean, uptake bigger in the pandemic. It's been a huge pillar for us really for the last few years. And I think the growth in women being financially independent actually goes back quite a way now. But I think media as a whole have been quite slow to recognise that and to put a sort of female-friendly spin on financial advice. Again, it's something we've researched quite strongly. And although we have a very educated, intelligent audience, I think there's been this perception, just which is probably a historic thing, of women seeing money as something a bit scary or confusing. And so it's absolutely imperative that we do our bit to educate women and empower them. And that's our role in media, really, is to empower our audiences with good information. So, you know, really important, and it will be very important going into next year, no doubt about it, with them, you know, people belt tightening and the economy. We know what's facing us, don't we? It's going to be quite hard times for a bit, and so I think it will be a very, very important pillar for us.
Great. I'm just going to have to ask it before I get trolled by everyone watching this. Who is the best person to contact for the online gift guide?
Well, our digital lead is Simon Swift.
Brilliant.
I would say Simon Swift or his deputy, Francesca Rice.
Brilliant.
You can always copy more people. You know, personally, if you really want someone to read something, copy everybody on the digital team, and then it will get read.
Great, thank you very much for answering that. Someone asked a good question. Oh yeah, who's the best person to speak to about personal stories and features? And then also just move tied in with that, female entrepreneurs' pitches. They still really important.
Really important. Oh God, we love those stories. Yeah. So I mean, Jackie Brown, you'll find it on the sheet that you're going to send around afterwards, is our features director, and she's absolutely brilliant. But we have loads of stories on female entrepreneurs. I mean, fascinating strand. I love those stories.
Yeah, they're interesting.
I'm always reading, you know, when I read them, it's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I want to do that. I mean, I think we all love reading those stories. It's incredible ideas and creativity. Women are so resourceful. So yeah, they're sort of a heartbeat, I think, of what we do.
Yeah. And what would you say the editors need in order to like clinch that feature / interview? Is it still a national treasure, someone of interest?
It's also pictures.
Okay.
I mean, you know, we are a glossy magazine. It's not just the words; it's the pictures. It's a magazine is a marriage of the two things. And I think always think visuals as well as the story, because all we'll do is have to ping you an email back and say, can you send some photos? So and if you think up front and send
those in our pitch, just a Dropbox link or something to images. Yeah,
Dropbox, or just a low res at the bottom, just something that's, you know, a Dropbox involves another step for the person reading that email. So if you can put in, that's kind of stage 2 when we've bitten. So if you can, an image is really, really important.
Brilliant. Quite a few people have asked, I know we touched on the big beauty sustainability investigation, but can you just clarify, sustainability runs throughout all of the Good Housekeeping pillars, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Home is very important. I mean, every strand now, it's something that it is always on, in terms of our interest. And it's a very regular franchise in the title. We've got Chris Backham has written a very big piece for our November issue, which is out next week. And we've also got an exclusive extract from Sir David Attenborough's book. And I think our audience is so focused on sustainability. We have to tell them about how to do it, really.
Brilliant. Is gardening big for you?
It is, yes. Our readers love gardening. And I've got a good fact for you here. So our gardening collection, we did our first ever standalone on the newsstand this year, our gardening, the Good Housekeeping gardening collection. And that sold over 30,000 copies, which is a new to market title. Was amazing. So we're definitely going to do another one next year.
Brilliant.
In print, we tend to run through the spring, summer and autumn months. We tend not to carry gardening content in the winter because there's not quite so much to do in the garden. But yeah, absolutely important to us. I think our readers love going to the garden shows as well. So I think they're very gutted that Chelsea wasn't on this year. Don't know whether it'll be on next year. So, but yeah, we absolutely, lots of gardening content. And I think lots of people have found comfort through it this year as well. I think it's something that's grown.
Something to do. So I know you mentioned you've got your Christmas special. How many other specials do you have each year, and when do they come out?
Good question. This year we've done 5. Next year we're doing 10.
Wow.
So we're going to do 2 healthy livings. We did one called Healthy Living last January. That was out last January, which is very much around the health, fitness, well-being pillar. So we're doing 2 of those next year. We're doing a cleaning and decluttering again. We're doing a gardening collection, and then 6 food specials.
Brilliant.
So yes, they've done really well this year. So that will, almost as many as the magazine.
Yeah. And does food include alcohol? Do the Good Housekeeping readers, do they like a glass of wine?
I think everybody likes a glass of wine. They also are partial to stories online about gin. Gin's gone crazy. So absolutely, yes. We quite often will carry wine recommendations as well alongside the recipes. So absolutely, yeah.
That is brilliant.
We've got time for about 2 more questions, do we think? Yes.
Will there be a travel special next year?
There's going to be 3 travel specials. So
brilliant.
We're actually introducing another one, which is going to be April. April is the first one. April, July and November is the plan for travel specials. Some of your audience might know we've produced a standalone called The Travel Edit in the last few years.
Yeah.
That's normally come out with the February issues, and we're postponing it. We're going to do it later in the year when there's a bit more clarity around what the picture is next year. So instead of that, we're going to be doing travel specials bound in April, July and November. So April actually we'll be working on quite soon. So do send anything to David Wickers for that might work for that.
Right.
And have you finalised when each special will be month-wise?
Oh, I have, but
don't worry.
Yeah, the first one, Healthy Living's the first one. That's out the 1st of January. That's on the newsstand. And then the next one is the vegetarian collection, cookery collection. Number 3, I think, is Fast and Easy. And then I think it's gardening after that.
Great.
I do know. I haven't got the list right in front of me, but yeah.
That's absolutely fine. Maybe the PRs watching can get in touch with the editors to find out when the specials are. And just to reiterate, all of the up-to-date Good Housekeeping email addresses, editors, contacts are on the Roxhill database. If you're not already subscribed, do get in touch with the team and they can give you a demo of the site. But yes, they are all up to date on the site.
I think that's all we've got time for now, Olivia. Yes.
Yes.
We'll squeeze in one more question. Just Any plans for International Women's Day in March, Gabby?
Oh, yeah, always. I think the March issue is always a bit of a theme around that. I think it's such a good time to focus on women's achievements and leading up to our 100 years. I have to say that's going to be a massive celebration for progress for women's empowerment really in the last century.
Brilliant. And final one, just interiors. We haven't quite, the interior focus, do you have an interior special coming up next year or not?
No, it's in every issue though. I mean, there's at least sort of 12 pages per every issue. So yeah, and that's ongoing right through the year.
Great.
Yeah.
Brilliant. We're going to have to finish that, otherwise we could be here all day. Thank you. That has been so useful for all of us, really informative. And I can't believe that Good Housekeeping has 400,000 circulation. That is just amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. And thanks, Olivia.
Thank you, Emma.
See you soon, I hope.
See you soon. Thanks,
Bye.
Gabby.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.